This is Never Down, Never Out with T.R. Matson. This podcast is about discipline when motivation fades, resilience when things get hard, and showing up when quitting would be easier. No hype, no shortcuts, just the mindset required to build something real, one day at a time. Let's get into it. Welcome back, Never Down, Never Out. T.R. Matson coming at you this morning. Hope you're doing great. Hope you're feeling good. Maybe you got your air squats and push-ups in if you've adapted that new thing from yesterday or from a couple episodes ago, I guess. Whatever it is you're doing, I hope this morning you've found your focus and you're feeling good today. Episode 85 never ceases to amaze me. It truly doesn't. I want to thank you for the support again. I want to remind you that there's other ways to support, as much as I hate to bring it up, but you know, the liking, the sharing, the subscribing all helps. One of these days I'm going to figure out what hyping these videos does. I'm sure it helps. Going over to my website or sharing that with people, the books, the merchandise, all that helps. It helps tremendously to let me focus more on this than my real job, which is ultimately the goal, I think, now. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. My family thanks you as well. Every day that I could choose this, to work on this over leaving home, is time with my kids, time with my wife. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again. There's one asset in life you can't give back or get back, and that's time. So I thank you from the bottom of my heart. Today, episode 85. I'm excited because we're getting close to the next section. And that's not to say that this stuff isn't important. It's extremely important, but I'm excited because I think the next section is where you will see a change in me because of the topics. That's all I'll say. I feel like it's my strength to be able to talk about the next section. Although I think I'm doing okay so far. So what are we talking about today? Becoming dangerous through consistency. Well, we've talked about this before. Being consistent is hugely important. You can't just do a little bit here and there and expect to make any difference, right? You look at professional athletes as an example. They don't come in and swing at a baseball every once in a while, or shoot a basketball every once in a while, or study plays or practice tackling every once in a while. Race car drivers don't occasionally go for a drive. They do it consistently and constantly to hone their craft. So how do we become dangerous? Well, let's talk about competition. And I don't just mean in sports. I mean in life. We all compete. I don't care if you're 550 or 500 years old. You've competed and you still have to compete. There was a time we competed for food. There's a time now where it's attention, achievement, accomplishments. Think about if you went to college, getting into that college was a competition. Getting into a job, competition. Any goal you put in front of you, there's a fairly good chance there's other people that want to achieve the same thing. So we need to figure out how to have an edge. What sets us apart from other people? Well, if we're competing to accomplish something, consistency, we've talked about before, is the greatest chance we have at success. And if we can be consistent in what we are working on, we become dangerously competitive in accomplishing it. It's just that simple. Flight school is an easy example for me because we were graded on every flight and you had to meet certain grades in order to get your wings. And you also had to meet a certain grade in order to go carrier aviation, vice helos or fixed wing P3s, P8s, etc. You had to hit a cutoff. It was a competition. It was a competition with yourself and with the scores, but it was also a competition with your squadron mates because there wasn't going to be a slot for everybody in the aircraft they wanted to fly. In fact, my particular week, which I believe was like 1 week after Gonki selected, there was no fighter spots. Period. Nothing. Just the way it is. So you're constantly competing, and flight school would have been the easiest way to say, hey, being consistent made me dangerously competitive for getting what I want. But ultimately, I didn't get what I wanted. I got the E2. I wanted jets first. Well, what's a better example of becoming dangerous through consistency? Well, let's talk about what happened when I got to my first squadron. Most pilots who fly the E2 Hawkeye at some point wanted to fly jets. Now, maybe not everybody, most. And maybe not everybody will admit that. And that's okay. But if they wanted to fly something like the Hawkeye, there are other paths to go that would likely give a better quality of life, maybe a faster path to the airlines if that was their goal. And a lot of pilots I saw in my time, after they selected the Hawkeye or after they got to their first squadron, they hit kind of a letdown. They were kind of bummed. Now, far majority of those pilots go on after 3 years of flying the Hawkeye and realize how rewarding it is, how great it is, how much fun it was, how unique the aircraft is, the skill set in aviation that it builds. But initially, some of them, it's a tough pill to swallow. And we had a couple in our squadron that came in after me that were notoriously bad for not wanting to be there. Now, I had a goal of wanting to fly fighters. I wanted to fly jets. I didn't get to out of flight school. My hopes weren't over. I quickly learned that there was a chance. The Navy has a path, but it is very selective. So, what did I need to do to set myself up to become dangerously competitive amongst my peers? I had to be consistent. I had to be consistently a good pilot. I had to be consistently working on my qualifications, both in the aircraft and out of the aircraft. I had to consistently be working on being a good officer and leading. I had to consistently find other avenues that I could then accomplish and put on my resume to hopefully tip the scale in my direction. But what was the consistent factor in all of this? It was consistency. I couldn't sit around and be self-loathing, oh, woe is me, Eeyore, pity party, because I didn't select jets out of flight school. I had to figure out another way. And the only way I was going to get there was hard work every day. I was going to outwork my competition. I was going to be consistent enough in my actions that I would give myself the best possible chance when the opportunity, if the opportunity ever presented itself. And when it did, I was ready. That was not an accident. That was hard work. It was doing the things I didn't want to do. It was writing papers for my master's degree while I would rather be asleep or playing video games or just not thinking about doing anything. But it was the only way that I was going to have a shot at ultimately accomplishing what I wanted to accomplish. And I did. Now, are there people out there that selected fighters in flight school and went on to have a full career flying fighters and became commanding officers and all this stuff? Yes. And they're fantastic and good for them. That wasn't my goal. My goal was to never become a commanding officer. If I'm being honest, my goal wasn't even to stay in the Navy for 20 years, although I knew the likelihood is I probably would have based on my thought process when I was younger. My only goal was to fly fighters. And for 4 years of my career, I achieved that goal. And I remember saying, and now I think of it often, when people ask me why do you study so hard? Why do you work so hard? Why are you doing all this extra stuff? And it's because I didn't want to become an old man sitting in a chair one day wondering if I could have flown fighters. The what if would have eaten away at me. And now I know the answer. Yes, because I did it. So flying for the Navy and flying Hawkeyes and flying fighters and all of this is obviously not everybody's goal. But today, I want you to think about, what is your fighter? What is it that you don't want to sit on a chair when you're an old man or woman and go, I wonder if I could have done that? And then once you identify that, now let's think about the work you got to put in. Because I want you to become dangerously competitive in accomplishing the goal of doing that. I want you to become dangerously good at not worrying about what you're going to do when you're an old man or woman and what you're going to think. And the only way you're going to do that is if you become consistent in your efforts towards that goal. I know you can do it. But the question is, do you know? Talk to you tomorrow. If this episode helped you, don't just listen, apply it. Progress is built in what you do after the message ends. Remember, never down, never out. I'll see you tomorrow.